Hey guys, it's me again. I'm here to show you one of my favorite things in all of mathematics. Are you ready? Get excited. Alright, so today we're going to factor to solve quadratic equations. Yesterday we solved quadratic equations by graphing and finding some roots, and we also solved them by taking square roots. Today we are going to factor. Oh, it's going to be great. We're going to use one of my favorite concepts. Alright, so to factor. But first what we're going to do is we're going to explore some number practice. Okay, let's make some of these equations true. We need something times something equals 0. Well, something times something equals 0. As long as we have 0, we can put literally anything. So in your notes, make sure you have 0, and then you can put literally anything else. How about my favorite number, 8? 0 times 8 is 0. Nice. Okay. Next, something times 4 equals 0. Something times 4 equals 0. Well, we need to have 0 there. That has to be a 0. 0 times 4 is 0. Sweet. Okay. Next, something times 0 equals 0. Well, that can vary. It can be, whatever you want. How about 1/2? Sure. 1/2 times 0 is 0. Cool. So what we just did, without you guys really even noticing, is we used the zero product property. And the zero product property is one of my favorite things. We love it. What is it about? I'm so glad you asked. Well, 0, that's this number, 0. Product means multiply. So what the zero product property states is that if you have any real number, a and b, and you know that a times b equals 0, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0. Or both. They could both be equal to 0. That's cool. For example, if we have something like x times 4 and we know that's equal to 0, here our a is x and our b is 4 equals 0 equals 0. Well, let's see what happens. If x times 4 equals 0, we can divide both sides by 4. And here our 4's cancel out. We get x equals 0 divided by 4 is 0. Oh, sure enough, x equals 0. Cool. If we have another example, we could switch our order around. What if we have like 3 times x equals 0? That works. Well, if we want to solve this guy, we just divide by 3, divide by 3. Our 3's cancel out. We can guess x equals 0 divided by 3 is 0. X equals 0. Ha ha ha. Cool. So zero product property says if you have two numbers, you multiply them together and you get 0, then one of them must be 0. Either a or b has to be 0. Now that's cool. Now I'm going to put it to practice here, and then we're going to add one extra step and do it again here. Ready? Let's do it. Here we go. Okay, so here we essentially have, actually I'm going to go back real quick because I'm going to do some color coding. So up here we had a number, a times b equals 0. So here our a was in fact 0. So that's cool. If we have a times b equals 0. So we had our a was x, b is 4 equals 0. So x was equal to 0. Cool. And our other one, our b was equal to 0. We had some number, a is 3, a is 3, b is x, 3 times x is 0. One of them has to be 0. So 3 is not 0, so x is 0. Okay. Now, same process again. Here we've got two numbers. We're going to use this same guy. If we have, watch this. Copy, paste image. Nice. That's so cool. Okay, we're going to use that same rule again. But this time, our whole 4t plus 1 expression is our a expression, and our whole t minus 2 expression, that's our b expression. So what we learned up here is either this equals 0 or this equals 0. So we're going to take 4t plus 1, see what happens if that's 0. And then we're going to take our t minus 2 and see what happens if that is 0. Because remember, we have two numbers multiplied by each other equals 0. So one of them has to be 0. Okay, let's solve our purple one first. So if this is equal to 0, well, then we minus 1 from each side. 4t equals negative 1. And we can divide by 4, divide by 4. So t equals negative 1/4. Let's see if that's true. So if t is equal to negative 1/4, that gives us 4 times negative 1/4 plus 1 times negative 1/4 minus 2 equals 0. You want to figure out if that's right. Now remember, we're plugging it back into our original problem because we're trying to find a t that will make this whole expression 0. Well, 4 times negative 1/4, that's negative 1 plus 1. Then negative 1/4 minus 2 is negative 2 1/4 equals 0. Well, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. So yeah, that works. Awesome. So we did our pink side, or not our pink side, we did our purple side correctly. Now, let's solve our orange side. We have plus 2 on each side. So we get t equals 2. That means if we take our t and we plug it into our original equation, that'll give us, hopefully, 0. Well, let's find out. So 4 times 2 plus 1 times 2 minus 2 equals 0. Again, we took our solution of t equals 2. We want to find out if we plug this t back into here, will that give us a 0? Okay, so we have 8 plus 1 times 0 equals 0. Well, 9 times 0 is 0. So yay, that does work. Awesome. So we have two solutions to our original equation. Either t equals negative 1/4 or t equals 2. Cool. Now remember yesterday that quadratic equations can have two solutions. They can have one solution. Sometimes they won't have any solutions at all. But yay, this one has two. Super. So negative 1/4 and 2 are both solutions to this equation because they both make it true. We have two solutions today. So to find our two solutions on our first example, you'll notice that what we did was we took each of our factors. We took 4t plus 1, we set that equal to 0, and then we took t minus 2, we set that equal to 0. So the key here is if you have two things multiplied by each other and it equals 0, you know that either this equals 0 or that equals 0. So we're going to do it again. Here on B, we're going to split it up. We have two things multiplied equal to 0. So we're going to start with one side and we're going to say, all right, well, what happens if this is 0? Because if this is 0, no matter what this is, then this whole thing is going to be equal to 0, because 0 times x minus 5 is 0. And then we're going to switch it up, and we're going to say, well, what happens if x minus 5 is equal to 0? If x minus 5 is equal to 0, then 0 times x plus 1 is still going to be 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. Well, let's minus 1. X is negative 1. Or, and plus 5 x is 5. So we have two solutions. Let's check both of them and see if that's true. So if x is negative 1, that's negative 1 plus 1 times negative 1 minus 5. Is that equal to 0? Well, 0 times, just kidding, that's not times, times negative 6 is 0. So yeah, that's true. And then on this side, 5 plus 1 times 5 minus 5. Is that equal to 0? Well, 6 times 0 is 0. So yep, that's true. So to find the solutions, we took each of our factors of 0 and we set them equal to 0 and see what our solutions are. This is because we're using the zero product property. If we have two things multiplied together to get 0, then one of them must be 0. Then either A is 0 or B is 0. In fact, what if we change this up? I think that will help. Okay. Now we're going to take that same concept and we're going to apply it down here. Except we need to do a little prep first. Here we had expressions already in factored form. We had something times something else. So first we need to factor and then we'll split it. So factor, then split and equal to 0. So in example 2a, we have this wonderful quadratic equation, x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. And we need to factor it. So remember, to factor it, we want to find two numbers that multiply to 15 and add to get 8. This will be 3 and 5. So this factors into x plus 3 times x plus 5. Awesome. Now we have this guy, we can split him up. And we want to split him up into x plus 3 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. So here we go. If x plus 3 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0, then x is negative 3 and x is negative 5. So those are our two solutions. So let's find out if we did this right and check our work. So we're going to take x equals negative 3 first, plug them back into our original guy. Is it true that negative 3 squared plus 8 times negative 3 plus 15 equals 0? Well, 9 minus 24 plus 15 equals 0. I think so, right? Last time I did this worked. 9 minus 24 is negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So, yep, cool. Now let's check our other side. Is it true that negative 5 squared plus 8 times negative 5 plus 15 is 0? Well, 25 minus 40 plus 15 equals 0. That is a true story. Cool. So we checked our work and either of our solutions is true. Yay! Now for our last one, again, we're going to factor and split him up. Oh, but first we need to get everything on the same side. We want to make it so it's equal to 0. So let's minus 18 from each side. That'll give us 4x squared minus 21x minus 18 equals 0. Okay, cool. Now we want to factor this guy. I like to factor using the square thing. So here we go. We want something that multiplies to 4x squared. Something that multiplies to negative 18. Let's try 4 and 1 and 3 and negative 6. Will that work? Got negative 24x. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm doing and so I can write a little more clearly. Negative 24x plus 3x will in fact give us 4x squared minus 21x minus 18. So that's what we're going for. Awesome. So this factors into 4x plus 3 times x minus 6. Now we've got it into our factored form. Awesome. We can split it up and solve. So if we know that these two factors multiplied together equal 0, then either 4x plus 3 must equal 0, or x minus 6 equals 0. Well, let's solve it. So we subtract 3, 4x is negative 3, giving us x equals negative 3/4. Or, this is going to be much more straightforward, x is 6. Cool. We can plug those back into our original equation and see if that equals 18. Hey guys, guess what? It does. Good deal? So we learned a new way to solve quadratic equations today, and that was to use the zero product property. Basically, if we can get two factors that multiply to 0, then each of those factors must equal to 0. We use that here. We split it up and set each of our factors equal to 0 to see what our solutions are. Sometimes we have to manipulate our expression a little bit to get it into factored form. Then we can set each of our factors equal to 0. I hope you had just as much fun as I did solving these equations. May you continue to solve all of your problems, both in your homework and in your lives, and have a wonderful time